Mang Zeus and an important thing that we may consider is a couple passages from Hosea. And, well, a few passages from Hosea. And to back this up, we could say that DNA studies tell us who the descendants of Abraham could be. Abraham's not he's not the most historical figure, so it's, he can't be pinned down quite like that, but the ancestry that he would, that is attributed to him, nonetheless, you got that. And the Turkish Mongol DNA is more likely to be the case with Ashkenazi Jews than anything Semitic. And the mention of Jesus about being trampled by Gentiles, if you're going to call Gentiles a, ancestry sort of thing, you're gonna be talking about the, but so before we get into Isaiah, perhaps because we're gonna throw in something from the Timothy, 2 Timothy 3:7. Sananta kaimah dapatais epignosin alphaias alpine dunamana. And just like in Buddhism, a person always achieves. So the person in even Christianity is not supposed to just give up. They're supposed to always learn and put their ability to this knowledge of the truth. And lest we turn into pride over blood and soil, we have 2 Thessalonians 2:4. Anti kaimenas kaieramenas epi pantalagamenan dean hasen basma ostautan maistanan uthos dean kathisaya padaikanta eapanatiastin thus. And it's not just the pride, but the pride leading to opposition. The opposition that people feel they're better than other people. The opposition to the temple. In the temple of God to sit down. And they think that they themselves are God. The people who enact these rituals where they claim for themselves that they are as God. Luke 21:24. Luke has some. Is Luke the one with some of the more severe passage? Probably the most. Well, anyways, that's for another program, and I think I already talked about that. Suntai stammati makairaskai aikmalotisa santai aistantatna kai Yerusalem astai hatuman apathnon archiplachrososin kairoe ethnon. So the nations, Gentiles is not quite the word, but other nations, they'll be led captive to, and they'll be trodden down by the nations until they're so fulfilled. But it's the time of those other nations, and there's other things that bring up the things. But there's many reasons why we shouldn't support the Marxist state. Revelations 2:9, 3:9, Revelations 11:8, certain authorities and other stuff we may say about some of this stuff. Genesis 3:5-7 kind of has certain implications, but as I said, we're going to get into Hosea here. So Hosea 2:19-23. Wahasrati yachamot havali mapya walayas kru Bashmam. And that's after a very interesting thing that I'm going to bring this up because it kind of relates to Christianity. It kind of relates to what they call Zoroastrianism. So the verse before that, the Wahya Biyum Hahwa Nam Yahwa Ray Aishi Wala Takre Li Aud Ali. So calling God the household Lord, that was kind of, well, I mean, there's more meaning to that Lord there, but people and all their Balim were having issue there. They were saying that God had a one particular myth that took on many forms, but that El had a son, Baal, and it connected to a lot of the Mithric myths. Sometimes there was a bull that had to be killed, or excuse me, being stuffed up with all my videos today. There's some mold issue from a leak that needs to be taken care of. That's started to be taken care of, so there's hope. But so the Aishi, so you don't call it because there's going to be confusion. And Aishi is related to beingness, so that's another issue. But the names of these lords are going to be removed, and they're not to be ever mentioned. much like the Marduk cult, it's thought that one of the dates that's given, the biblical date that's given for Abraham indicates that he would have fled the Marduk cult. I think there's reasons to put him at an earlier date, and maybe that may be being mixed in, particularly since his message would have been along that lines. But the idea is that these names, they're not these separate deities. Don't mention them like that. Don't mention them as they're the names of these entities. Just, knock it off. And verse 20. Wakrati lahambarit biyum waram cheat hashda wam mouth hashmim wormash hadma wakshat wachrab wamlachma ashbur man harts wah batin lab touch. Now that word there, breach, it also means soap. It just doesn't mean covenant, but it means soap as well. But soaping them down like with the beasts of the fields, that doesn't make much sense. So animals keep their covenant because they don't, the other animals, other than the humans, they keep their covenant because they don't really have that free will. So, but we're supposed to rise above as humans, so we're going to be banished and made low and struck down and driven forward, whatnot, if all we do is, but then there can be a safety. And verse 21, a safety in the fact that one's exalted material position is not relied on. Warshatik li laulam warshatik li bats wamashpat wamchasad wamrachmin. And the righteousness. So the righteousness and justice, if you're espoused with that, then whatever. So if you look at a nation, is it based on believing and doing what is right? Is that the issue there? Or is it just some ancestral feuds that things been turned into that? And some things, like something that is going to be commemorated per se massively this month in this moon in the biggest pilgrimage in the world, that people acted like, well, no, it wasn't political. That some people were trying to continue the religious state. Other people said, well, we wanted rulership before. Our people came through here as conquered. It wasn't. People wanted power, and that's why they came over. And there was that 1,000 months of ill rule, you could say. Verse 22. Oh yeah, and the K at the end. In Aramea, the period of language of everything in Tanakh, it's not you. People are given in Hebrew, as it's called now, it has that Arabic sort of meaning to it, but it was the tamed or subdued, which can be in that category, but this, put over towards the cause, you could say, the yuk in the palm of the hand out in, so eek, that root into the palm of the hand. This is, Washati kliba widat atyahwat wahyabi. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. And through this faithfulness, one is then one in cause with God, basically, and the goodness and mercy on us and all that. 23. Wahyabiyun Hahwa Ana Nam Yahweh Ana Ad Hashmim. And then God will respond, and heaven and earth will respond to each other in a way that can be witnessed. 3, 4. Rabim Yashbubani Yashralim Malk Wayne Sher Wayne Zabach Wayne Matzpah Wayne Abud Wadrapim. And so the Israelites are going to not have their rulership. They're not going to have their, either the religious officials or their king. They're not going to have that. And you saw the rabbi, the HaKahanim, ended up replacing, even though in Tanakh, the HaKahanim are kind of like the enemies generally referred to. But they'll even stop the cult pillars, the ephod and the teraphim and the sacrifice. Even the sacrifice can be practiced anywhere, but they're giving up on the sacrifice. It's like, what's with that? So just like it says for Jesus, it wasn't that Jesus was like an enemy. No, he was trying to bring back the more like the Karaite sort of thing. But the message behind what's represented by Tanakh, you could say that's why new prophets come. But we have 4:1. Shemau Dabar Yahweh Bani Yashral Kirib Lahya Lihwa Yushambi Hearts Ki Ain Amat Wayne As Chesed Wayne Dot Alhim Parts. So if they're not a people of honesty and goodness, God will have a case against the land. So if it's a secular state and it's not about obedience to God, then and Allah Wakash or Wagnab Wanap Hertsu Woodmean Budmean Nagao and swearing, dishonesty, murder, theft, adultery, and crime upon crime. And that's really all we need to say here. Oh, did I share Isaiah 3:5? I guess I missed that one. But we don't have to share these in order as long as we know which ones we're talking about. Acher Yashbu Bani Yashrawam Shuat Yahweh Al-Hiham Wadud Mokam Wajadu Yahweh Waltubu Shri, and but there'll be a turning back. And they're a thrilling over God and his bounty, and the accepting David for what David really was. So, yeah. And I guess I should say something about this, this well here. This well, the Haddaj well in Tayma, the Tabuk, Saudi Arabia. And since probably around the time of historic Judaism making an appearance, this well was, a place, but it was a community. It was a community that they struck out against another prophet, but then they turned back. They turned back and, sort of became a people of God after that. So, you was up or you